Last October, I found myself stranded in a small town after my flight got canceled. The only place with vacancy was the Grandview Hotel, a towering Victorian building that had seen better days. As I walked into the lobby, the floorboards creaked beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The elderly clerk behind the desk moved slowly, his pale fingers trembling as he handed me an old brass key. "Room 237, he wheezed, avoiding eye contact. "Third floor. The elevator's been out of order for months, so you'll need to take the stairs." His voice carried a warning I didn't understand at the time. I climbed the creaking stairs, my footsteps echoing in the narrow stairwell. The wallpaper was peeling, and several light bulbs had burned out, leaving entire sections in complete darkness. With each step, the temperature seemed to drop, and I pulled my jacket tighter around me, wondering why they kept it so cold. The third-floor hallway felt endless, with dozens of identical doors stretching into the distance. I counted the room numbers as I walked: 231, 233, 235. And then I stopped. There was no room 237. The numbers jumped from 235 to 239, as if room 237 had never existed. But I was holding the key. I walked back and forth, checking every door twice. The numbers were clearly marked, but 237 simply didn't exist. I considered going back downstairs to complain, but something about the clerk's expression stopped me. Instead, I decided to try the key on room 235, thinking it might have been a mistake. To my surprise, the key fit perfectly into room 235's lock. The door swung open with a long, drawn-out creak, revealing a room that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1950s. The air inside was stale and cold, carrying a faint smell of something I couldn't quite identify. Something sweet and sickly. The room was larger than I expected, with a massive four-poster bed and antique furniture that looked like museum pieces. I set down my bag and tried the light switch, but only the bedside lamp worked, casting long shadows across the walls. That's when I noticed the guest book on the nightstand, and my blood ran cold. The guest book was filled with names and dates, but something was terribly wrong. Every single entry was for room 237, not 235. The dates went back decades, but the handwriting looked fresh, as if each entry had been made yesterday. And at the bottom of the current page, in handwriting I didn't recognize, was my own name. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. Every guest who had stayed in this room had written the same thing. Room 237, a wonderful stay, though I can't seem to remember checking out. The entries were signed by dozens of different people, spanning 60 years. But according to the hotel, room 237 didn't exist. I walked to the window and pulled back the heavy curtains, expecting to see the street below. Instead, there was nothing but darkness. Not the darkness of night, but an absolute void, as if the window opened into empty space. I pressed my face against the glass and saw my reflection, along with several other faces standing behind me. I spun around, but the room was empty. When I turned back to the window, the faces were still there in the reflection, clearer now. Men and women of different ages, all wearing clothes from different decades, all staring at me with hollow, desperate eyes. They were mouthing words I couldn't hear, pointing at something behind me. I looked back at the guest book, and the pages were turning by themselves. More names appeared as I watched. written in different hands, different inks, different languages. But they all said the same thing. They couldn't leave. They had all tried to check out, but somehow they were still here, trapped in a room that officially didn't exist. Panic set in as I ran to the door and grabbed the handle. It wouldn't budge. The key that had opened it so easily now wouldn't turn in the lock. I pulled and twisted and pounded on the door, but it was as if it had been sealed shut. The faces in the window reflection were nodding now, sadly, knowingly. That's when I understood. I wasn't in room 235. I was in room 237, the room that didn't exist, the room where guests checked in but never checked out. The faces in the reflection weren't trying to scare me. They were trying to warn me. And now, as I write this in the guest book, I realize I'm about to join them. The hotel clerk found my car in the parking lot 3 days later, but according to their records, I never checked in. There was no reservation, no signature in their registry. But if you ever stay at the Grand View Hotel and they give you a key to a room that doesn't exist, remember that some places are designed to keep their guests forever.